StraightallDay.com.
To the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how I would do my college years differently. If I was to go back to school, what would I do different, how, and why? I'm going to explain all that here today. But before I begin, let me tell everybody that I send out this text message every morning that's called the Daily Motivation. This message is guaranteed to help you start your day being focused, sharp, and on point. And who would not want to do that? So since you want to do that, here's what you do to get it. Text me at my number, which is 305-384-6894. And every morning, starting tomorrow morning when I send out the Daily Motivation, because you're a member of my texting community, you shall be a recipient of this message. You can even respond to those messages every day. I take time to go through the text, and I do respond back to some people's messages. So text me at that number. It's listed down below in the show notes so you can get the Daily Motivation and you'll be part of my texting community. Secondly, Work on Your Game University is the place where you go to take your next step in your Work on Your Game journey, which means 4 specific things we want to help you develop there. The bulletproof mindset, so that your mentality, your highest level, unbreakablest, I made up that word, most unbreakable mentality becomes who you are. It is not something that you do. That's number 1. Number 2, that you have a game plan and a strategy for actually executing and taking your business and career where they need to be. That's number 2. Number 3 is a system to do the same things the same way every time. The same way Apple, Nike, Amazon, and Google are so consistent in what they do is because they have systems in place, not because they have geniuses working in all the warehouses and in all the stores. You can put systems in place so that you are just as consistent, even if you don't have anyone else working for you besides yourself. That's number 3. And number 4, the accountability to execute on a consistent basis, which means you have guardrails in place. And when you start to slip up, when you don't do what you're supposed to do, when you're not following through the way you're supposed to, there is someone you can talk to, someone you can bounce ideas off of, and someone who is going to hold you accountable to make sure you are staying consistent and persistent and on point and executing the way you're supposed to, as well as your systems executing the way they are supposed to, and making the necessary changes when necessary. All of that and more takes place inside of Work on Your Game University. If this sounds like something that you know you need, and I know that it is, I want you to go to workonyourgameuniversity.com right now, and you'll see exactly what to do to take your next steps in joining the university. With all that said, let's talk about university. All right, let's talk about how I would do my college years differently. Now, those of you who don't know, I do have a college degree, 4-year college degree from Penn State University, thanks Penn State, with a focus in management and marketing. Now, even though I own a business to this day, business is actually called Work on Your Game, and I am an active marketer these days. I do marketing every single day. Nothing that I learned at Penn State University, my business degree at Penn State, nothing that I learned there has anything to do with what I do these days in business. So once again, thank you, Penn State. So let me be clear, however, that what I just said, even though it was a tongue-in-cheek, backhanded compliment to Penn State, it is not an indictment of college. It is not an indictment of Penn State. It is not an indictment of college in general. And it's not an indictment of universities, because after all, I do have Work on Your Game University, not the same type of university, a little bit better than what they're doing at Penn State. But what I would do if I was to go to college again, or if I could, I would go to college again. I would do it over again. I would go to college again. I would get a 4-year degree again, not anything more than 4 years. I would not do anything extra. But I would just invest my time and energy a little bit differently now, knowing what I know now, if I could go back and do it again with the same brain that I have now. I would not go back to college today. So there will be no postgraduate degrees for me. But today I'm going to tell you exactly how I would do things differently and why I would do things differently. That sounds good to you? Turn the volume up. Point number 1. Today's topic, once again, is how I would do my college years differently. Number 1 thing I would do in college, if I was to go back, I would play more basketball. That's what I would do. I would play more basketball. I went to college knowing that I wanted to graduate. I did want to get a 4-year college degree I mean, I figured since I was going to be there, I might as well go to class and do good enough to get a degree, which is pretty much what I did. I graduated with I think my graduating GPA was a 2.6, which is like extremely average. There was a picture of average college student. If you looked up average college student in dictionary, there might be a picture of me there. I was pretty average as a college student. And average was not my level of intelligence, but my level of effort. And I didn't really care about anything that was being taught in the classrooms. By the time I got to probably my sophomore year, I didn't care about anything being taught in the classroom. I went to college for 2 reasons. Number one, actually 3 reasons. Number one, I wanted to develop myself as a person, and I could do that in the semi-independent arena of a college campus where I had a little bit of independence, but also was still tethered to, you could still call back home if you absolutely needed something. But other than that, you didn't have to call home at all, right? So that was one part. I just wanted to develop myself as a person, so that was a good environment to go do that. Number 2, I wanted to get more social experience in that semi-independent environment. Social experience meaning partying and dealing with girls and going out and not waking up in the morning, going to class if I didn't feel like it, drinking if I wanted to do it, more partying if I wanted to do that, and otherwise just doing whatever the hell college students do. Any of you went to college or you had an idea what happens on the college campus, I was doing all that just like you were. So I wanted more of that. I saw that on TV and in magazines before I went to college. I said, all right, that's how college is. I want to go to college. So I wanted to do that, which I did do. And the number 3 thing I wanted to do is I wanted to develop myself more as an athlete, because I knew by the age of around 16, which is, I was still in high school at that point, I knew I wanted to be a professional athlete. But at the time, I didn't really have any kind of credentials or resume that said this kid's going to become a professional athlete. So I know I wasn't going to go straight from high school to the NBA, getting out of high school as a basketball player. So I was going to need 4 years at least of grooming myself as a player to become a skilled enough player to where I had a legitimate chance to play professionally on, anywhere, in any league, and any level. So I knew I needed those 4 years of college just for the sports experience, let alone the other things that I mentioned. Now, I didn't know if I would actually be able to make that happen, the athletic part that is, or how I would make it happen, even if I did. But I did know that that's what I wanted to do, even though I had no idea how it was going to happen. But I knew there was nothing that was being taught in the classroom on that college campus that I was planning on using after school. And again, probably by the time I got to by the end of my freshman year I wasn't quite sure. You kind of feeling things out and just seeing how things are freshman year. But by sophomore year, I'm like, all right, nothing that's happening in these classrooms is going to have any bearing on where I want to go when school is over. Even if I didn't become a basketball player, I wasn't trying to do anything I was seeing any of my classmates do or anything I was hearing any of the teachers talk about. I remember being a senior in my junior and senior year of college. That's when you kind of bear down on taking the classes that are specifically for your major, or at least that's what most kids were doing at that time on the campus that I was on. So my last 2 years, most of my classes were with a bunch of the same people because we were all in the business major. And the campus that I went to Penn State Altoona, which is a branch campus of Penn State University, the second biggest branch campus of the university aside from the main campus at State College. And Altoona and State College is only about 30 minutes away from each other. So in those classes, my last 2 years, I was looking around at most of my classmates, and they were dutiful students, diligent students. They did all the homework and all that stuff, and they were basically doing what school in America is designed to do. It's designed to groom you and prepare you to be an employee, where you follow the directions, do what the boss tells you to do, and because you did a good job on that, you get a pat on the head and a check every 2 weeks. I just knew I didn't want to do that because I'm looking around at them and I'm looking at me and I'm like, I'm not like these people. Whatever it is that they're doing, these people all seem like good, trustworthy, nice, kind individuals, but I'm not like them. I don't think like them. I don't want to live like them. And wherever they're going to be 20 years from now, I don't want to be there. And it's almost 20 years since I graduated from college. Wherever they're at, however they're living, I don't want to be living like that. I knew that I didn't want to. So I knew I didn't really need anything that was being taught by these professors, especially in the business sense. I was thinking about like being an entrepreneur, owning a business, not business like working at a business. I was thinking a little bit differently, and this was aided by the fact that I started reading books on entrepreneurship probably about halfway through college, because I had gotten randomly introduced to the concept of network marketing. And though I did not build a career in network marketing, I dabbled in it. I did get introduced to a whole bunch of entrepreneurship concepts through network marketing that I otherwise would not have been introduced to. So I've always been, I appreciate my network marketing experience because of that alone, of the concepts of business and entrepreneurship that I got introduced to that my business degree from college never taught me, and that I didn't learn in the environment that I came from. My parents didn't teach it to me. I only learned it through being introduced to network marketing. So I'm appreciative of my network marketing experience because of that. And I talked about this, I detailed it in episode 1503, the business and personal growth benefits of network marketing / MLM. Some people call it multi-level marketing, but there are business and personal growth benefits of that experience. And this show wouldn't exist had I not had those experiences, because that experience in network marketing introduced me to Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, one of the most influential books on me in terms of my business career that there was. It introduced me to other personal development authors like Brian Tracy and Napoleon Hill and Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn and many other folks. And through reading those guys, I got introduced to more people, and through them, more people, and through them, more people. So that experience was very much worth it. So anyway, as I was saying here, I will play more basketball because my goal in going to college was I just wanted to get myself ready to play basketball professionally, get the social experience, and get the independence experience. Point number 2, today's topic once again is how I would do my college years differently. Number 2, I would socialize and party more and talk to more girls. Yes, this is the number 2 thing that I would do if I went back to college. The social interaction aspect was my second major in college after basketball, in a tongue-in-cheek way. I remember when Facebook first came and opened itself up to where you didn't have to be a college student to sign up for a Facebook account. I remember on my Facebook profile, it would ask you what college did you go to, and I would put my college because that way you could connect with other people you had been in college with. And this is like maybe a year or 2 or 3 after I had graduated. So this is when those people, you still had a pretty close connection to the people you went to school with. So I connected with a lot of people from college through Facebook, and it would ask you what you majored in. And I would put 2 majors in there. I would say I double majored in basketball and social interaction. And if anybody asks me, I'll give you 3 answers. I'll say, well, technically my degree says I got a major in business with a focus in management and marketing. But if you want to know what I really majored in, I majored in playing basketball and in social interaction. Those were my real majors in college because those are the 2 things that I got the most improvement in over the 4 years that I was in college was basketball and social interaction. So that's why I would go back to college again. So if you were to ask me what are the best things that I got from college, again, I just told you, basketball and social interaction. These are point number 1 and point number 2. The social aspect is related to the friends that I still have to this day, the experiences that I had with the people that I met and dealt with in college, and just developing myself as a person, which required me to engage with other human beings in ways that I never would have been able to had I not been in the environment of a college campus. This is one of the main reason why, if I had the opportunity to go to college again, I would, is because of being on a college campus environment and just being around other people we are all around the same age bracket, and we all were looking to develop ourselves in some way, shape, or form. Most of us had most of our lives in front of us rather than behind us. And we all had this semi-autonomous environment of there's no parents around, so we could pretty much do whatever the hell we wanted to do. You wanted to be completely reckless and undisciplined, you could do that. You wanted to be super disciplined, you could do that. And you wanted to be somewhere in between, that's pretty much where I was. You could do that as well. And that was the best thing about the college experience. That's the reason why I would do it again. And if someone was thinking about going to college now, I would advise them that if you're not going to go to college, you do need to figure out how you're going to meet your people, right? How you're going to build the circle, how you're going to build the network, how you're going to build relationships and connections, because you need a way of doing this. My 4 years of college, again, if I had not gone to college, I would not have the circle of friends and connections that I have to this very day, because a lot of them I met in college, and even the people who I know that weren't from college, I know them because I knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody from college. So those college connections were a big thing for me, and that social engagement. So I would absolutely do a whole lot more socializing. There are people on my campus who probably wanted to engage with me and talk to me that I never spoke to or never talked to. And I had to kind of come out of my shell a little bit, because I come from the city of Philadelphia, where I come from and the era that I come from, you didn't just talk to some random person who you didn't know for no reason. Right? So if you were walking down the street and somebody else is walking the other way, you didn't stare at them, you didn't look at them, you didn't smile at them, you didn't say hello to them, you didn't say good morning. You didn't do that where I come from. So I had to kind of work a little bit of that, a good amount of that out of me through my college years until I got to the point that it was not part of me anymore. And that took a little bit of time. So had I known then what I know now, it wouldn't take any time, because I would have went straight to being a lot more open. I would have talked to a lot more people. I would have met a lot more girls. I would have got invited to a lot more parties. And I would have a lot more friends to this day who I met in college had I talked to more people when I was in college. That's 100% true. So those experiences and developing myself as a person, again, it requires human engagement. And you all hear what I talk about here all the time. We're in the era of collaboration, era of relationships. And there is no downside to having more positive relationships. There are some things in life when having more of it is not a good thing. All right, lifting more and more and more weights can be a bad thing, because you don't give your body a chance to recover, to let your muscles recover if you're lifting weights too often and too much. Eating too much candy or chocolate or sweets is probably a bad thing, because your body eventually is going to start rejecting all that manufactured sugar. So there are some things where too many or too much is not a good thing. But when it comes to positive relations with people who are going somewhere and doing something, there is no such thing as too much. It's like vegetables. You can't really eat too much vegetables. Leafy green vegetables, you probably can't eat too much of that, but you can eat too much candy. So there are some things too much there does exist, and some things with too much does not exist. So while I did a healthy amount of socializing in college, I did abstain from a few parties. I did have some periods where I didn't socialize a lot. I did spend some time studying, more time than I would if I could do it all over again. I'll tell you more about that in point number 3. But I would have gotten as much partying and socializing and such out of my system during those 4 years of college as possible, for the reason of, as I already told you, building more relationships, and because by the time I got out of college, I didn't want to feel like I was missing anything, and I can go straight into playing ball and go straight into adulthood and running businesses and all those other things. And I wouldn't want to be 24 years old, 27 or 30 years of age, still trying to chase the party scene. Now, the good thing for me was that after I got out of college, I went into playing professional basketball, and playing pro basketball is similar to college in that you're a young person, you're around a bunch of people where there is a social dynamic to it, playing ball, especially playing overseas when you're an American, because everywhere you go, everybody knows who you are. And because of the work schedule of being a professional athlete, a long day at work is like 4 hours of work for us, and rare was that, a 4-hour work day. You got plenty of time to socialize and party and do stuff like that, go to clubs, and I did a good amount of that. I started playing pro when I was 23, so that first 7 years, I did a good amount of all of that, simply because there's not that much time requirement when you're playing a professional sport. But anyway, let's say I had gone straight into being a businessman or something like that, or started a family or anything like that. I would want to have gotten all that partying out of my system just in college, so that I was able to turn my back on that stuff and go into no more partying, no more drinking, no more nothing, and been 100% fine with it and not need to get anything else out of me. But since I hadn't gotten it completely out of me, I probably got about 90% of it out of me in college. I still got that last 10% out through playing basketball. If had it not been basketball, since most people don't go play professional sports after college, I would have felt like I had left something on the table. I would not make that mistake if I went back to college. I would get it all out of me. I wouldn't leave anything on the table. But anyway, I would not make that mistake again if I could do it again. Point number 3, today's topic once again is how I would do my college years differently. Number 3, I would think more entrepreneurially about passing classes. I know some of you are wondering, Andre, you gonna say anything about actual school here? You're talking about doing college again. You haven't brought up school yet. Okay, so I guess I'm supposed to tell you something about classes and teaching and the degrees. All right, so here I'll throw a bone to that concept. I suppose I will talk about it a little bit here. What I would have did, I would have used money, the little bit that I had. I would have paid people who did actually do dedicated schoolwork to do my work for me. In other words, here we go back to the socializing part. I would have made friends with the kids in class who appeared to be actually doing their math homework. The people who, when the teacher assigned us a project that was due in 2 weeks, they had the project done in 1 week. The kids who, when the teacher asked a question in class and I had no idea what the hell the teacher was talking about because I had not done the reading, but there's a kid who always raised their hand first to answer those questions because they had done the reading, I would make friends with those individuals. And I would say to them, look, I would either make friends with them and borrow their work just on a friendship thing, or if I couldn't become their friend and get them to give me their work, I would say, look, how much do you want to do this project for me? I know you got to do your project. I'll pay you to do my project. How much you want? I would have used my money thinking like an entrepreneur. And instead of what, I would have thought about who. So Jim Collins talked about this in Good to Great. Instead of what do I need to do, instead ask who can actually do this. I would have paid somebody, taking care of the who instead of the what, to let them do it, and I would have got my work done by another person instead of me doing it myself. All right, that's what I would have done in college had I known then what I know now. I would have paid people to do my research paper. I would have paid them for answers to exams and tests. I would have come up with other creative ways to solve the problem of passing classes, because you do have to pass classes to get a degree, instead of using my own effort and hard work and time and attention to study, because that's the most inefficient way to get a degree. I mean, again, if the goal is just getting a degree, I didn't say anything about actually learning anything. If the goal is just to get a degree, which is pretty much my goal, then I knew I had to be a C student to get a degree. But what if I could be an even a C or better student and I didn't even have to do any of the work? See, I had to do work to be a C student. Or it takes effort to be a C student, same way it takes to be a B student or an A student. I would have used a lot less effort and got pretty much the same outcome, which is a degree. Didn't matter if I was a C, B, or A student, because I wasn't trying to use the degree for anything any damn way. I never asked any of my college professors for a recommendation or any of that shit, because I didn't care. I wasn't trying to get anything that they could help me get. That's just the plain truth. I'm not telling y'all that who's listening to this that you need to think this way, because your options when you get out of school may be completely different from mine. And we're talking a 20-year gap here between where I was getting out of school and where you are, and we may be talking completely different skill sets and opportunities as well. But if I'm going to do college again, I'm going to be honest about how I would use my time, and I would create the best possible ROI given my future plans. The biggest things I needed coming out of college was more basketball ability and more relationships and more friends. That's it. I would have spent as little time as possible on anything related to academics. I would have spent even less. As I told you all, I graduated with a C average GPA because I gave average effort. I would have gave less than average effort, even less effort than I did if I was to go back now. I'm also assuming back then, 20 years ago, is technology. I'm not assuming technology like what we have today with AI and all that stuff. I probably wouldn't even need to talk to people to do that. I could have got most of my work done without even talking to a human being. But I would have, assuming we didn't have AI and all that stuff, I would have just made friends with people, and I would have got people to do my work for me and got a lot more of it done with a lot less effort. Now, again, all the disclaimer to everything that I just said, everyone, is that's just me. You may not need to use such a formula. It should be based on where you see yourself going and also who you see yourself as. Now, I know where I ended up and I also know who I am. So I would have done it just like this, because I can look back 20 years and say, all right, this is the best way that I could have used college. Now, again, depends on your circumstances and your situation. So do not try this at home without consulting a professional first. With all that said, let's recap today's class, which is how I would do my college years differently. And I would do college again if I could do it again, given the exact same circumstances. I would just reallocate my resources thusly. Point number one, play more ball. I went to college knowing I wanted to graduate and get a degree, but I also knew I wanted to be a professional athlete, so I would have spent more time playing ball, so I would be better prepared to make it as a pro athlete getting out of college. Number two, socialize and party more, talk to more girls. I would have got all the partying out of me so that I didn't even have a little bit left in me, as I did when I get out, that I ended up using up in my basketball experience. Most people don't go into a basketball experience, so I would have got all that partying out of me while I was in that environment during those college years. So I would have spent more time partying, talked to more girls, got invited to more parties, and made more friends that would still be friends of mine to this very day. Number three, think more entrepreneurially for passing classes. In other words, I would have paid people off to do my work for me instead of me doing the work myself, because I did not need any of that information being taught in classes. I knew I wouldn't retain it anyway. I didn't retain it anyway, and I would have just made sure I got it all done one way or another, meaning I would have used my money to get things done. The who over what concept as articulated by Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great. So with all that said, text me. Let me know you want to get that daily motivation text. College degree is not required for you to be a member of my text community. So text me at my number, 305-384-6894. And every morning when that daily motivation message goes out, you as a member of my text community shall receive the message. My number is 305-384-6894. And Work on Your Game University. This is where you can get a real life university, no bullshit, no nonsense. You will not look back on it and say, Now, I know I went there for 4 years, but I don't know exactly what I learned. You will not say that about Work on Your Game University. So the Bulletproof Mindset, the Business Builder Framework, the Work on Your Game System, the Next Mission Framework, 30 Days of Discipline, ASAP Confidence, Toughen Up, Content Machine, all of those things you will learn the frameworks of how they work and how to apply them to your business and your life starting immediately, and you'll be coached by me on how to do it. All that happens at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Again, that's workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all day.